Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Risha and this is For the Love of Classics. Today's video is going to be mini book reviews of 3 books or classics I have recently read. So without further ado, let's just jump right into the video. So the first classic which I'm going to discuss is The Warden by Anthony Trollope. Anthony Trollope was a Victorian writer. The Warden was published in the year 1855 and it is the first book in the Barsetshire Chronicles series. This is a short introduction to the Barsetshire Chronicles series. It is just 200 pages long. The story is about Mr. Harding, who is a warden at an almshouse. He has been appointed for this job by his sister's father-in-law, who is also his dear friend. The story is based in the fictional town of Barchester. So some guy started this almshouse as a charity. He wrote it in his will that 12 men should benefit from this charity house. The story begins when people start questioning this will and whether Mr. Harding should profit from this charitable institution when originally it was created for the benefit of deserving men. So the young man who started questioning this will is John Bold. He is one of the suitors of Mr. Harding's daughter. He's basically against the concept that the warden is earning or benefiting more as compared to the poor men in this almshouse. What I found really interesting in the book was that Mr. Harding was unwillingly drawn into this whole situation. He is not a bad man. He does not want to take money away from these poor men. He's a respectable old man who is just stuck in the whole situation, even though he did not want it to be a part of any scandal or anything wrong. He's just a man who is stuck in this wrong post at the wrong time. It was a very simple and short story. The book discusses themes of being good or being bad, and we realize in this book that there is no such thing as being good or as being bad. All the characters are simple-minded, good-hearted people. Let me share one of the quotes from this book. What story was ever written without a demon? What novel, what history, what work of any sort? What world would be perfect without existing principles both of good and evil? I really enjoyed this book. I have given it a 4-star rating. I really sympathized with the character of Mr. Harding. He is stuck between his son-in-law, who is fighting the legal battle from his side, and his second daughter's suitor, Mr. John Bold, who is fighting the law battle from the other side. The writing in the book was beautiful and I'm really looking forward to reading more books in the Barsetshire Chronicles series. The author of Animal Farm in 1984, George Orwell, thought this book was brilliant and he called it probably the most successful of Trollope's clerical novels and one of his best works. So if it's good enough for George Orwell, I think it's good enough for me. And I have heard that the other books in the series are even better than this. So I cannot wait to start Barchester Towers, which is the second book in the series. So the second book which I want to talk about is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. This is written by an English writer and it was published in the year 1938. So it is a relatively modern classic from the 20th century. The narrator of the story remains unnamed throughout the book. So the protagonist of the story is a companion to an American woman and they are staying in a hotel in Monte Carlo where she meets Mr. De Winter. He is quiet and broody. They have a whirlwind romance and by the end of it, Mr. De Winter proposes to her. They have a honeymoon in Italy and then they go to his house Manderley, which is a big dark gothic mansion. The brilliant thing about the book is the amazing storytelling. Daphne du Maurier weaves the plot slowly and describes her characters and the mansion Manderley beautifully. The protagonist is a very meek and quiet character. She never asks her husband about her previous marriage. Mr. De Winter's sister and his friend tell her about Rebecca, who was the first wife of Mr. De Winter. I heard about Rebecca on BookTube. Many people here have read it and praised it highly. Gothic literature is not something I usually enjoy, but I did really enjoy this one because the writing was absolutely brilliant. I have given this book a 4-star rating because I would have loved to know a little bit more about Rebecca. The build-up of the story was great and we learn about Rebecca slowly and gradually, but I wish we got to know her better. I did not like the character of Mr. De Winter a lot, but one does not have to like all the characters in order to appreciate a book, and I did really appreciate the writing in this book. There is also a black and white film adaptation for Rebecca. It came in the year 1940 and it is an excellent movie. You could watch it before reading the book or after, depending on what you like. And the last book which I want to talk about is The Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky. I wanted to talk about this book in the end because I know I would have a lot to say about it. This book was published in a serialized manner from the year 1879 to 1880. It was one of the last novels that Dostoevsky wrote. This was a Russian classic and I read its translation by David McDuff. So The Brothers Karamazov is considered to be a great achievement in literature. It is considered one of the best novels ever written. I totally agree with that. It is a philosophical novel. There is a lot of talk about religion, faith, morality, etc., etc. But at the core of this book is a murder mystery, the murder of a father, patricide. The novel is divided into 4 books and then an epilogue. Each part has 3 or 4 subdivisions or chapters. Let me warn you, this book is not for everyone. I would say Dostoevsky is an acquired taste, and in order to get to The Brothers Karamazov, one needs to first read his shorter works just to get a taste of his writing. Starting with Crime and Punishment or The Gambler would be better so that you can build it up towards The Brothers Karamazov. Many people DNF this book after 100 pages and I can understand why that is. In the first 100 or 200 pages, we get introduced to the characters and it can be difficult to keep track of the Russian names because they have their formal name and they have their informal names. But the good part is that The Brothers Karamazov has fewer names as compared to War and Peace by Lev Tolstoy. In the first 100 pages, there is also a lot of discussion about Russian church. So obviously that is something I'm totally unfamiliar with. It was hard for me to understand that part as well. But this edition had notes, so it helped me in understanding those religious discussions. But once I was done with that part, I really got into the story. Fyodor Karamazov has 3 sons. The first son, Dmitry, is from his first wife, and the younger 2 sons, Ivan and Alyosha, are from his second wife. Both of his wives have passed away, and he has never taken any interest in the upbringing of his sons. Fyodor Karamazov embodies everything that is wrong. He's a selfish father. He drinks. I thought that his 3 sons represent 3 very important themes. The first one, Dmitry, exudes passion. His second son, Ivan, is an epitome of intelligence and reason. And the youngest son, Dmitry, is full of faith. Faith, reason, and passion are what we are all very familiar with. I feel like these things are a part of every human being, and we get to see extremes of all 3 of these things in these 3 brothers. Dmitry is all passion. He will do anything for the love of his life. He is willing to steal, lie, cheat, whatever it takes, because he's very passionate about Grushenka. The second brother is intelligence. He reasons about everything. I think he takes reasoning a bit too far. He brings reason into religion. He brings reason into people's actions. And the youngest son, Alyosha, takes religion too far. At times, he seems unreal because he is so selfless and willing to help others, willing to help his brothers in any way he can. The story is narrated by this person who remains unnamed. He lives in the town and is familiar with these brothers, their father, their whole backstory. So once Fyodor Karamazov's character gets murdered, the story starts revolving around the investigation, the interrogations, and the story ends basically in the courtroom. What can a reader expect from this book? This book is going to demand a lot from you. It's going to need your concentration, it's going to need time, but by the end of it, you will learn something from it. This is what I would call a useful learning experience. It's not just a story about a murder, it's so much more than that. I would highly recommend this book to people who are into philosophy, who want to know the meaning of life, and who want to know why people are the way they are. I think it is definitely worth your time and investment. And I also think one needs to read this book at the right time in your life. Even if you have DNF'd this book or are too scared of reading it now, just keep it on your radar because one day you will definitely want to pick it up. So that's it, guys. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I really enjoyed all three of these books. If you have read any of these books, let me know what you think about them. Leave a comment down below of some flower emojis. I would love to know who has stayed with me through the entire video. I'm going to see you all in my next video very, very soon. Bye. So the young man who started So the young man who started questioning this I am really excited to start reading. The book had beautiful and the book had Anthony Trollope used Fyodor Karamazov is a character